لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله ما لنا رب سوى لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه. The great Allama Tabatabai has different points about the last two verses of the chapter 1, and that is about the nature of Sirat al-Mustaqim, the right path or the straight path, and the difference between Sirat and Sabil, and then about guidance. So his major ideas are around these 3 points. What is the nature of Sirat al-Mustaqim? What is the difference between Sirat and Sabil? And what is the meaning of guidance? Of course, about every point, he has also points that we will refer to some of them. If you remember, in the last session, we talked about the relation between the straight path and the people upon whom Allah has bestowed His blessings. We as a believer ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to the straight path. But we are not the only people that are going to follow this path. There are people who have already taken this path and they are ahead, and in a sense this is their path. Sirat alladhina an'amta alayhim. So this is their path, means they have already taken this path, they have made progress, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let us join them, to let us be with them. As Allah says in another part of the Quran, وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا, after saying مَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ حَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. So they are good companions. So you can travel with them and enjoy being with them. On the other hand, there are people who have taken the wrong direction. And these are the people who have been misguided, who have gone astray, or the people with whom Allah is angry. So we have also to be careful not to be like them. So by knowing the straight path, the right path, and also by keeping in mind 2 different groups of people, the people who are on the path and the people who have missed the path, we should be able to find our way easily. Because you know what is the straight path, and that is the path of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the path of worship. And also you know the people who have already taken this path. You are also aware of the people who have missed. So you should be able to find the path and be able to, inshallah, carry on with your journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allama Tabatabai makes some points that some of them are easy to agree, some of them are difficult to agree. One of the things that I have difficulty in agreeing with, because we have decided not just to say the things that we agree, also some of the things that we don't agree, is about the relation between shirk or polytheism and zulm, injustice, and misguidance or dhalal. That in my version is page 29, in the second half of the page 29, and then continues at the beginning of page 30. Allama Tabatabai says that كُلُّ ضَلَالٍ فَهُوَ الشِّرْكِ كَالْعَكْسِ. Every kind of misguidance is shirk. And every shirk is also misguidance. Okay, we don't have problem with the second one, that shirk is zalal, because you cannot say shirk is not, to be guided. That's not a problem. But kulla zalalin fahuwa shirk, he refers to this verse. وَمَنْ يَتَبَدَّلِ الْكُفْرَ بِالْإِيمَانِ فَقَدْ ظَلَّ سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ. And he says that whoever replaces belief with disbelief, has gone astray and has missed the balanced way and the balanced path. So he argues about this, and I don't know if you have already studied, then I can make the point. Otherwise, it's difficult to make the point. But just for those who have already studied, I think it's not very easy to say kullu dhalalin fahuwa shirk. But with some difficulty, we may accept. Because if we say kullu dhalalin fahuwa shirk, sometime maybe this misguidance is not about iman, about faith, about basic principles of faith. Sometimes maybe a person is misguided with respect to a derivative issue. To say that this dhalal is shirk is difficult. Or even, for example, if we look at the Quran, we see that sometimes, for example, in a sense, maybe believers are considered to be somehow misguided. But I say this is okay. I don't want to stop that much here, because you may say, no, we have an extended understanding of shirk, and therefore we say, أَنْ يُؤْمِنُوا أَكْثَرُهُمْ بِاللَّهِ إِلَّا وَهُمْ مُشْرِكُونَ. So I don't want to stop that much here. What I want to stop is on the second point. He says, وَالْقُرْآنِ يَعِدُ الشِّرْكَ ظُلْمًا وَبِالْعَكْسِ كَمَا يَعِدُ الظُّلْمَ ضَلَالًا. يَعُدُّ, sorry, yes, you are. يَعُدُّ الظُّلْمَ ضَلَالًا. Quran counts zulm, injustice, as zalal. What is the verse? الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُمْ بِظُلْمٍ أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمُ الْأَمْنُ وَهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. Surah An'am number 82. This is a very well-known verse, and this verse shows that the people who have faith and they don't mix their faith with injustice, they would have safety, they would have security, and they would be guided. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُمْ بِظُلْمٍ. It means that people who are mu'min are either mixing iman with zulm or not. So they are divided into two groups. Some of the mu'mineen are the people who mix their iman, they combine their iman with zulm. Some not. Okay? Allama Tabatabai from this verse wants to conclude that every zulm is zalal. And I don't think we can conclude from this every zulm is zalal. This is about zulm in the context of iman. If a person does zulm in the context of iman, like shirk, like associating someone to God as a partner, or not accepting some of the things that Allah has said, this zulm is a zulm which is related to iman, and this is what the verse refers to. But for example, if a mu'min does zulm to someone else, and he understands that this is wrong, this is not something about his beliefs, this is not something about the doctrines, he knows everything, but in practice does some zulm, can we say this zulm is zalal? It seems very difficult to understand this from this verse. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُمْ بِظُلْمٍ. It seems that this zulm is not zulm in general. This is a zulm which is coming with some kind of misunderstanding, or some kind of perhaps insistent distortion of iman. But I don't think this lam yalbasu imanahum bizulmin can refer to the zulm which is done by a mu'min with relation that he has with other people or with himself. Do you get my point?
Yes, of course. I have the text here. And may I comment on that?
Yeah.
Here we see, there are two expressions about two judgments, about two different similarities and different relationships. The first one is the relationship between Zalal and Shirk.
Yeah.
And the other is the relationship between Shirk and Zulm.
Between zulm and zalal. No, I'm talking about Kama
Ya'uddu. You mentioned was about the relationship between Shirk and Zulm.
Which one? No, I didn't mention that one. I mentioned this one. Kama ya'uddu zulma zalalan. I'm talking about this one. Ya'uddu zulm zalalan.
But you recited الذين آمنوا ولم يلبسوا.
Yeah, so this is for that one. كما يعد الظلم زلالا في قوله تعالى الذين آمنوا ولم يلبسوا إيمانهم. This verse is mentioned by Allama to support that zulm is zalal. Why zulm is zalal? He refers to this ayah. But I think this ayah does not prove that every zulm is zalal.
But the thing I wanted to say was not this. I wanted to say that the fact that Allama is trying to say is that is not a general point. He is just mentioning the relationship that might exist between zulm and zalal.
No, he's necessary. He says they are the same, and later he says vabil jumla az-zalal wa-shirk wa-zulm amruha wahid. Of course, he says not conceptually. Conceptually they are different, but he says that existentially they are the same. Means that every zulm, every shirk, every zalal come together. The concepts are different, but they apply to the same instances. He's very clear about this. But the argument is not very clear. How can we say that every zulm is zalal? Yes, if you extend the meaning of zalal and say that a person who knows that he's doing something wrong, also he is misguided, then that's another issue. But normally what we understand from zalal is someone who has lost the point. He has not been able to understand. Not someone who knows and this is why the Quran says maghduba alayhim are different from zallin. Maghduba alayhim are those people who do something deliberately wrong. Zallin are misguided. Even this classification in the ayah itself shows that zalal cannot be too general, as Allah said. Anyway, but maybe we don't understand properly. Yes.
And you say whoever to zol, at least ignore the legal monotheism. And it equals the shirk. And every shirk is zalal.
So it's a practical shirk.
Yes.
But I'm not talking now about zulm and shirk. I'm talking about zulm and zalal. Can we say every zulm is zalal?
Yes, every zulm is shirk. And
how can you argue from this verse? الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُم بِظُلْمٍ. How can you argue from this for the fact that every zulm is zalal?
Not from this verse.
No. He's doing this.
Yes.
He's doing this.
Like this verse, it is not necessarily proved.
Pardon? No, he says كما يعد الظلم ظلالا في قوله تعالى. You can say in this particular case, yes, but not every zulm is zalal. In any case, Allama Tabatabai says that Sirat al-Mustaqim, the right path or the straight path, which is the path of the people who have not been misguided, And it is interesting, he says, هو الصراط غير الضالين. So in a sense, he wants to include مغضوب عليهم also among the غير الضالين, you know.
Yes.
So he says, this is the path of the people that they don't do anything wrong. It's very, you know, a strong statement. He says, لا يقع فيه ضلال البتة. They don't do anything wrong, not in their heart, like for example kufr, they are not people who don't believe. أو خطور لا يرضى به الله سبحانه. He says the people who are on the right path, even they don't let any ideas or thoughts come to their mind which would not be pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a very high position. So not only they don't do anything wrong, not only they don't, you know, believe in anything wrong, they even don't think about something which is not pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is very high position that Allama Tabatabai considers for Sirat al-Mustaqim, just because he says anything which is zulm and which is wrong is zalal, and because Sirat al-Mustaqim has to be away from zalal, so Sirat al-Mustaqim has to be in such a high position. And I have made a comment here that it seems to me that this is not the requirement of Sirat al-Mustaqim. Maybe this is the requirement for some of the people like Nabiyyin, wa Shuhada, wa Siddiqeen, who are already ahead of us, and they are, you know, somehow very purified by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe they have this status. But a believer who is on the right path, I don't think we expect from him not to have any ideas in his mind or thoughts in his mind that is not pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, as he himself also mentions later, the people who are on the right path, they have different degrees, different ranks. They are not all at the same level. If we say to be on the straight path requires this, then what else remains to be dividing them? They have already all become purified. So this is something that you can also think about it. The other thing that Allama Tabatabai mentions is that what is the difference between the people who are on the right path? He has a very important point on the page 31, and later also he makes this point. This is very critical, very important point, and if you agree with this, it has lots of consequences. Allama Tabatabai says that we have mu'minun, we have believers, and we have nabiyyin wa shuhada wa siddiqeen wa salihin. Believers want to be on the right path, and those are already on the right path. What is the difference between the believers and those who are ahead? Look at this sentence. This is a very important sentence. Allama says, التدبر في هذه الآيات يوجب القطع بأن هؤلاء المؤمنين وشأنهم هذا الشأن فيهم بقية بعد. Still there is some problem with them. There is still some kind of shortcoming in these people. لو تمت فيهم كانوا من الذين أنعم الله عليهم. If that was not there, that was sorted out, then they would be able to be one of those people that Allah has bestowed His mercy upon them, His blessings upon them. So the mu'mineen, although they are on the right path, still there is something missing. A kind of perfection is still missing. If they gain that, they themselves become one of those four groups. What is that? He says, perhaps that is a kind of knowledge. نوع من العلم بالله تعالى. Perhaps what stops them being actually one of those four groups is that they lack some type of knowledge. This is very important. It means that knowledge can be by itself a sign of perfection, or not only a sign of perfection, a kind of actually perfection itself. You know, like the discussion about the perfect man, Insan Kamil. Can you leave it for? So, about perfect man, there is a discussion that what makes a man perfect. Okay, of course, this concept of perfect by itself is problematic. And in English, when you say perfect, then it causes some misunderstanding because we don't have any human being that can be perfect. Anyway, this concept of Insan Kamil, which is discussed by philosophers and mystics and so on and so forth, the people like Ibn Sina and other peripatetics, they mostly focus on knowledge. They say the perfect man is the one who has knowledge of the realities, and he himself becomes a world similar to the external world. But this is the world which is the world of knowledge and understanding, similar to that world which is the world of realities. This is their understanding of perfection. It seems that Allama Tabatabai somehow agrees with this. So he says, the believers, they need to achieve this knowledge about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he mentions this ayah. يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises those of you who have faith. So means one way of being upgraded is because of Iman. وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ. And those who have been given knowledge. I don't know how Allah understands from this verse that knowledge is something which makes mu'mineen different from nabiyyin wa shuhada wa siddiqin wa salihin. I don't understand how clearly. Perhaps
because of the word darajat.
No, that's another issue. Perhaps Allah wants to say, look, there are two issues here. One is Iman, one is knowledge. These are the only two factors that can make people, upgraded. Mu'mineen have already Iman. Therefore, what remains is knowledge. Perhaps this is his argument. Okay? So he wants to say, according to this ayah, there are only two factors that can put people in different ranks. Everything must be explained by reference to these two factors. Why Mr. So is in level 5, Mr. B, for example, is in level 6. Either it's because of Iman or because of knowledge. Because we are supposing that we are talking about believers, so the only thing which remains is knowledge. I think this is his argument. But I am not very sure about this argument, if that is the really what. Because you can say even Iman itself has different levels. It's not that everyone who has Iman, okay, finished. They are at the same level. So we have, if this is the case, so we should have only two levels. Iman and ilm,
Darajatan.
only darajatan. Iman by itself has different levels, knowledge by itself has different levels. So Allah wants to say that based on Iman and based on your knowledge, you have been given different ranks. But this doesn't mean that everyone who has Iman has one level. Everyone who has knowledge has one level. This is my understanding. Do you have any question?
Some commentator says that these ayahs two sentences, they are separate from one. يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا.
Minkum?
Yes, and after it says والذين أوتوا العلم درجات it's مستقل.
Okay, independent.
Yeah, independent, yes. And it didn't refer to the يرفع الله الذين آمنوا.
Is it darajatun or
Yes.
درجاتين.
Yes.
درجاتين.
darajatun? It's not darajatun. What you say must be darajatun. Perhaps there is one recitation, one qira'ah which is darajatun. But what we normally read is darajatin.
تمييز.
Okay? So if it is darajatan, it cannot be two sentences. Yeah. So يرفع الله الذين آمنوا منكم ويرفع الله الذين أوتوا العلم. Darajatan is for both of them. Means there are different degrees and ranks for believers and the people who have been given knowledge. Iman requires knowledge, but this knowledge that Allah talks about is a very high level of knowledge.
Because of that, they have very high level of iman. Because of the knowledge.
No, Allah is saying, what is the difference between a good mu'min and Nabiyyin?
Because they have a very high level of knowledge, they have a very high level of iman. Nabiyyin and Shuhada.
Okay, so you are saying that Iman has different levels.
Because of the knowledge.
Okay, whatever. This can be one reason, but the ayah seems to suggest that Iman is something and knowledge is something. They are related, but they are not the same. And each of them has its own degrees. Iman has its own degrees, knowledge has its own degrees. What I understand from this verse is this. Maybe I am wrong. But what I understand is different from what you say. What I understand is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to say that He recognizes two factors as kind of privilege. One is Iman. A mu'min compared to a non-mu'min is in a superior position. And of course, who is stronger in Iman is in a higher position than who is in weaker position of Iman. So Iman can make people in different levels in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah. Not money. Money for people is very important. Some people are more, for example, respected because of money. Some people are more respected because they come from a noble family. In the sight of Allah, it's only Iman, and of course, like Iman is taqwa, because taqwa and Iman, inna akramakum indallah. The second thing is knowledge. But what type of knowledge? You may say, so if someone knows physics, is better than someone who doesn't know physics in the sight of Allah. If someone knows, for example, I don't know, a foreign language, is he better than the person who doesn't know that language? I can say yes and no, depending on your reaction. I can say yes or no. First of all, I can say yes. Why? Because in any case, to know is better than not knowing. هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون. But if you want to say no, I don't accept, I say okay. This is not talking about any type of knowledge. It says وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ مِنْكُمْ. So this is the knowledge which is given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not any type of acquired knowledge. So a type of knowledge which comes with, kind of honor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the knowledge that Allah gives you, not the knowledge that you gain in a school. So these two factors, Iman and knowledge, are recognized in Islam as two factors that can put people in different ranks. So we should show more respect to ulama and to mu'minin. But we cannot show more respect to people because they are rich or because they have, reputation, or for example, they have a big tribe, for example, to support them. Indeed, even hadith says something like this: "Man tawadha'a ghaniyan lighina, dhahaba thulutha dineh." If someone shows humbleness in front of a rich person just because he's rich, for example, as an alim, I am here, then a very rich person comes in, I stop my discussion, and go and shake hand with him just because he's rich. 2/3 of my iman
It's gone.
has gone. Zahaba has gone. Means from the same door that he came, my iman has gone. Okay? So Islam doesn't recognize money as a factor that can upgrade people. But iman and knowledge can. This is my understanding of this verse. But Allama Tabatabai seems he wants to say something different. He wants to say that people who have iman, then they can be upgraded because of knowledge, not anything else.
The knowledge is according to taqwa and having faith and being deeds.
So this means that knowledge comes definitely with taqwa. Not that knowledge is something which is missing. Allah says mu'mineen miss that knowledge. He wants to say what is the difference between mu'mineen who are on the right path and an'amta alayhim. What is the difference? He said the difference is naw'un min al-ilm billah, a special type of knowledge, maybe a kind of intuitive knowledge, ilm huzuri or whatever, as some people say. This is not the knowledge which says ittaqullah wa yu'allimkumullah, because that happens for every pious person.
Actually, can we say that ayah says that إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء support this argument of Allah?
How?
Because every person who
Fears.
feared of Allah, he's near to the taqwa and iman more than the others. إنما just يخشى الله من عباده العلماء. Every person who fears of Allah just can just be a knowledgeable person. Not
This ayah says that
others.
only the knowledgeable people have awe or fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Because of that knowledge related to the iman.
Okay.
And every person has a knowledge more.
But
than
this doesn't say that this knowledge is not available in mu'minin. Allah refers to a kind of knowledge which is not available in mu'minin.
Okay, this is.
He says this is the knowledge which is missing.
This is a level of it, a special level of knowledge, not.
Not level, no one min al-ilm.
Okay.
He says this is a type of knowledge.
Okay.
Okay.
What is problem?
But this is the problem. The problem is that there is no reason for that. The problem is that he mentions this ayah and this ayah doesn't prove that. So we say, please bring some argument for that.
Some other verses.
We don't accept everything, unless there is a reason for that. If the reason is this verse doesn't prove that. If there is another reason, okay.
Sorry, according to this verse, that it has two parts. Allazina amanu is the action action that we do it. Okay, iman is the action from us. But utul ilm, I think it can we can conclude from this two parts, and comparison of two parts, these two parts of the verse, that this ilm is the conclusion of the iman. So when you have iman, this iman concludes a part of ilm. And this ilm is not what you achieve this, but it is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
No, you know, my question is this. If we have a mu'min who is alim and a mu'min who is not alim, which one is better?
The moment
Who is alim?
yeah.
So it means that this ilm is not a special ilm. This ilm is the ilm that can be even available in mu'minin. But according to Allama Tabatabai, وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمِ, that refers to a knowledge which is not available to mu'minin. It's a knowledge which is only for nabiyyin and shuhada and siddiqeen. I say, why you are restricting the verse?
It is a special art, a special level of knowledge, not absolute knowledge. A special level of knowledge that
Yeah, but how do you understand it from this verse?
Isn't it enough that says is in a passive form, says utul, and they are the stewards,
Okay.
can achieve it themselves. So ordinary knowledge is available for all people, but utul doesn't happen for all people.
Every pious person also is taught by Allah. Ittaqullah wa yu'allimkumullah. That is also given by Allah. You don't need to be nabiyyin and shuhada and siddiqeen and so on. Even it is very difficult for Allama to say that the difference between nabiyyin and shuhada and siddiqeen and salihin, everything is based on knowledge.
How do you know that the
You know, because he has to also prove this, that all these different people, they are only different because of their knowledge. Why we are only restricting everything to knowledge?
I mean, how do you mean know that the kind and the level of the knowledge given to muttaqin is different or lower than the one which is given to shuhada?
This is what Allama says. Allama says that first we know that an'amta alayhim are higher than mu'minin. Because mu'minin say ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, so they can be guided toward the right path, but they are the people who have the right path. Okay? So these are higher than these people. These people have iman. So these people must have something more than iman. What is this factor which is more than iman? He says it's knowledge. So the only thing which is different is knowledge. And I say, I'm not denying this or accepting it. I say I just need more arguments. This ayah by itself is not a proof. And I have really difficulty in accepting. I'm not saying I'm denying, but it's very difficult for me to say that the only difference is knowledge between these four and this, and also among those four. Among those four also, we have to explain the difference just because of knowledge. I am not saying their knowledge is the same, but I am saying that maybe they have different, for example, levels of purity, different levels of perfection, different levels of closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and because of that they may have different also types of knowledge. But it's not that the knowledge is the only factor. Sometimes you say Salman had more knowledge than Abu Zar, and therefore this is why Salman is better than Abu Zar. I say I may accept that Salman had different knowledge or more knowledge than Abu Zar, but maybe this was not the factor which made them different. Maybe they were different because of something else, and then as a result Salman was given more knowledge. So there is a possibility of accepting that the knowledge can be different, but not saying that knowledge is the only factor. You have question?
There is a hadith from Imam Hussein that the Prophet asked Jibreel, why you are asking me a lot about Salman and Mirza. He said because of the greatness of wilayah in their hearts.
Yeah.
Excuse me, maybe I might argue that maybe there is another yarfa, that yarfa, it's omitted here. يرفع الله الذين آمنوا منكم ويرفع الله الذين أوتوا العلم درجاتهم.
So what?
And so there is a kind of levels between Anbiya and Shuhada because of their ilm.
No, I accept that ilm is something that can
No, excuse me.
upgrade you. But the question is that this doesn't show that after Iman, it's only ilm.
Because of the type of spiritual ilm, spiritual type of knowledge, the Anbiya have the kind of various levels. لهم الذين أوتوا العلم درجات. Some of them are ulul azm, some of them.
So it is only about prophets?
Yes.
So what about, for example, a mu'min who is alim and a mu'min who is not alim? This ayah doesn't include that?
Maybe we can say no.
Why? The ayah is general. وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمِ. So this ayah, and indeed, all mufassirin that I have seen, they use this ayah to show that knowledge in Islam is respected. They don't say this is the knowledge of Anbiya. A faqih, a mufassir, is to be respected. Why? Because Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ مِنْكُمْ دَرَجَاتٍ.
As you said, because الذين أوتوا العلم, this ilm acquired but من Allah.
No, that is one way of saying this. Because we can say anything is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, even for money, Allah sometimes says that we have given you this. It doesn't mean that this is special money. It means that every blessing comes from Allah. Because وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمِ can mean that this is a special knowledge, or it can mean that knowledge comes from Allah. Even a bad person, when he has knowledge, he must be thankful to Allah that Allah has given him this knowledge. Even if you go to a school and you learn, again this knowledge is given by Allah.
If it was so, the ayah should say Allah has given you faith and knowledge. But it says you have faith and Allah has given you knowledge.
Yeah, because for Iman, we don't say Alladina utu al-Iman.
So if it is
Iman is something that very much depends on your will. Iman is voluntary. You have to have Iman.
from one aspect,
But knowledge is something that you cannot have knowledge. You can prepare yourself for having knowledge.
you attain both.
Now, you make efforts, but knowledge is given. You can go to a Hose for 20 years and achieve nothing.
Maybe ulama agree that this ayah has two parts. One, the first part, discussion about general moment, and the second part, discussion about special moment. That they are and
Okay, we need more argument, more explanation. I am not denying, but I'm saying that these 1-2 lines are not enough for such a big claim. It's such a huge, claim to say that the only factor that can make you a prophet or a witness or a righteous or truthful is just knowledge. I don't find it easy to accept. I accept that perhaps they have different levels of knowledge, but I say that can be by itself a consequence, an outcome. Not that, for example, why, for example, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was better than other prophets? You can say because he had more knowledge. And you can say no. Although he had more knowledge, but this by itself was because of something else. Because he was, for example, closer to Allah. He was more humble. He was more, for example, showing servitude to Allah, and therefore Allah gave him more knowledge. Do you understand the difference? Yes.
Right. What are the consequences if we believe what Allah says to be true? At the beginning you said if we believe what Allah says, then there are consequences.
So if we believe in what Allah says, it means that knowledge is the most important perfection. For a human being, it's just enough to have more and more and more knowledge. And if no, I don't think so. I think knowledge is one of the outcomes. For my understanding, what human beings can achieve as a sign of perfection is more closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all different qualities that Allah has.
So why Allah didn't mention other factors except knowledge in this verse? Because of the specialty of knowledge.
No, because Allah says Iman, and Iman has different ranks. يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. So Iman by itself has different ranks.
Well, Iman has different ranks, but after Iman comes ilm that Allah Himself gives. So Allah
after Iman, we don't have necessarily anything after Iman. We have different levels of Iman. But even a prophet is mu'min. You cannot say prophet has gone beyond Iman and now we are talking about ilm. You know, I don't find this something that you can easily put it in Islamic culture or literature to say that we have one, for example, a stage, and this is Iman, and then a higher stage, ilm. So Anbiya are not in the stage of Iman, they are in the stage of ilm. This doesn't fit into the Quranic and Hadith, articulation of levels of Iman. According to what we understand from Quran and from Hadith, is that every human being has certain level of Iman. And the difference between people is in different of Iman. Okay? Amirul Mu'minin is Amirul Mu'minin. So he is again in the realm of Iman. We don't say Amirul Mu'minin was alim and not mu'min. Have you ever come across such a thing? That Amirul Mu'minin was not a mu'min, he was an alim. Mu'min is for lower people. Or Prophet was not a mu'min.
And then there is another proof for what you are saying. And that is the second or the third verse of Surah Al-Baqarah. الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. The essence of faith in unseen is without ilm, without in fact experience, without experience.
Of course, there is a kind of knowledge, but it's not sensual knowledge.
Yes, this is what I want to say.
Yeah, but it's intellectual knowledge. Yeah.
Your argument was based on the fact that we use Iman and then on top of Iman comes perfection. But if you look at it as a circle, where you start from Iman and you go...
No, I didn't say on top of Iman comes perfection.
So,
I say perfection must be explained according to different levels of Iman.
so then you can say that you've not concluded, but you've reached a higher level of Iman, and after Iman comes perfection.
Not after Iman comes perfection.
But that doesn't, that even if you say after Iman comes perfection...
I don't believe anything after Iman.
No,
there is a great...
There is nothing after Iman.
Perfection relies on Iman. Though.
There are different levels of Iman.
But perfection relies on Iman. It's not in parallel to Iman. You cannot say it's Iman here and in parallel to that is perfection. They all depend.
Perfection depends on different levels of Iman.
Knowledge depends on Iman. So you have to have Iman to have knowledge.
Yeah, but Allama says that a special type of knowledge is on top of Iman.
So because the last level of Iman, after that comes perfection. Because it depends on the last Iman, on the last level.
And so this is what I have difficulty with.
But what? Okay, let's
I don't find any reason to say that the difference between Nabiyyin, Shuhada, Siddiqeen and Salihin among themselves and with other mu'mineen is only because of knowledge.
So if we start at the beginning, we say first I believe, then Allah grants me knowledge. Then I believe more, Allah grants me knowledge. I believe more, Allah grants me knowledge. So then
I don't have problem with this.
So at one point I reach the level where I believe the most, and then I'll grant that knowledge. That knowledge is what Allah was talking about.
But again, that's a level of belief.
On top of that belief, there's perfection.
No,
Every perfection
no,
depends on
that belief itself is the perfection. And in that level of perfection, you have certain things like knowledge.
Yeah.
But knowledge is the outcome. Knowledge doesn't make you perfect. Knowledge is given on the level of your perfection.
In the science of philosophy of religion, there is a great discussion about the priority of faith to knowledge or knowledge to faith.
Yeah. No, that's another issue. That is another issue. That is about the knowledge which is required for being faithful in the first place. I don't have problem with that. That is a requirement of faith, and we believe that you have to know and then you can believe. Not that you believe and then you come to know. That's another issue. In any case, this is something important that you can study again and see what Allah says. Maybe I am making mistake. The other thing that Allah says is about the difference between Sirat and Sabil. As you know, in the Quran, Sirat and Sabil are used in different ways. I mentioned two differences. One is that most of the time Allah attributes Sirat to himself. Sometimes he attributes to people. Most of the time he talks my Sirat, my path. But for example, in Sirat alladhina an'amta alayhim, Allah has attributed to those people. And it's easy to understand why. It doesn't mean that this is actually their path. It means that the path that they have followed. But for Sabil, it's very common to attribute it to people. Sabili or Sabil of some certain people. For example, Allah says, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي or سَبِيلَ مَنْ أَنَابَ إِلَيَّ or سَبِيلَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. So it's very common for Sabil to be attributed to people. But in Sirat, most of the time, it's attributed to Allah himself. This is one difference. The second difference is that Sirat is not used in plural form. Sirat is one. We don't say Siratat or Surut. We say Sirat Mustaqim. But Sabil can be used in plural form. Subul. Some of you who attended the course about spirituality, you remember that I explained the difference between Sirat and Sabil based on this ayah. يهدي به الله من اتبع رضوانه سبل السلام ويخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور ويهديهم إلى صراط مستقيم. We explained that, and Allah perhaps wants to say something like that, but maybe this is easier the way that I'm saying, that subul is plural, Sirat is single. Why? Sirat is the main path, and that is obedience, that is worshipping Allah. Okay? أن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم من يطع الله والرسول فأولئك مع الذين. So obedience and worship. But how to obey God? This is very important, and this can differ. Not in the sense that every person has a path towards God which is different. I don't accept this, that every person has a path which is different, and we have paths equal to the number of people. You remember we discussed about this. But we accept that people, for example, you as a father or as a mother, there are different ways to obey God. A father or a mother, or a parent and a child, a teacher, a student. So people have different functions and different positions in their personal social life. Depending on that, to be an obedient person can require different things. Okay? So if there is a student in the house who is obedient, and if there is a farmer who is obedient, although they are both obedient to God, but they should do different things. If the student in Hausa does farming, then he is not showing obedience in the right way. So If we are in Hose and we don't study and we do other things, so then we are not obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as students. We are doing something else. Okay? So, Sabil is the corresponding or the relevant way of obeying Allah for you. Something which applies to you. Someone in your category has to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this way. Okay? So therefore, we have to remember that Islam has different packages, subul as-salam, for different scenarios in human life. Islam is not only for ulama or only for, for example, students. Islam can be for any group of people with any function or position in society, any age, any gender, any race, any ethnicity. Okay? So this is Sabil. But all together, we call this Sirat Mustaqim. So a good pious farmer, a good pious talabe, a good pious driver or baker, they are all on right path, Sirat Mustaqim. Although they are doing different things, but they are all pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pardon? Yeah.
What is your proof for this? Because somebody use these verses to prove pluralism.
No. Pluralism is different. If pluralism was correct, then we should have different Sirat. Sirat is one. Then there is a beautiful point made by Allama.
Distinguish between Subul and Sirat. Based on what you are saying?
Because Sirat is one.
So, just because of this, the
Sirat is one, and that is obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? But then we have different Sabil. And the Quran, this ayah is very beautiful, as I said, this ayah. And this is about the Quran. قد جاءكم من الله نور وكتاب مبين يهدي به الله من اتبع رضوانه سبل السلام ويخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور ويهديهم إلى صراط مستقيم. This ayah, at the same time that says Quran guides to the subul, says Sirat Mustaqim. So this ayah makes it very clear that Sirat Mustaqim is one thing. You cannot have two Sirat Mustaqim, but you have Subul as-Salam. Yes.
What's your argument for every individual doesn't have one? There's not every individual has one path that's specific to him. Do you say that's not true?
No.
Why?
Because it's not as diverse as this. So for example, if we have today about 7 billion people,
7 billion plus?
we don't have 7 billions of ways of pleasing God. Because many of these are overlapping. So we may have 10, 20, 30, 40, I don't know, 100, 1,000, but there is no reason to think, and I think it's irrational actually, to say that every single person has one path towards God. And if you remember when we talked about this, of course you were not there, we talked about this عدد الطرق إلى الله بعدد أنفس الخلائق. And some people say أنفاس الخلائق, which is worse. But if it's بعدد أنفس الخلائق, first of all, we don't know whether this is authentic hadith or not. And second, I said this doesn't mean that every single person has a pass which is exclusive. I have my pass, not for you. You, not for them. So 7 billions just at this age. But these 7 billion different from next generation. From next generation. It's impossible. What this means, it means that for every person there is chance of finding a way towards Allah. It means that it's not closed. Sometimes you want to go to a place, they say, we have only capacity for 1,000 people. So you don't have capacity for you. Even if you want to go to Hajj, they say, okay, just 3 million people. We cannot take 10 millions of people. Okay? But the path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is open to everyone. Everyone has a path. Not that a path which is different from others. It means that there is a possibility. So even if this is a correct hadith, this can be the meaning of hadith. عدد الطرق إلى الله بعدد أنفس الخلا means every person has a path. But these paths at the end are not that many that equals to the number of people. And it's very clear, if you look at, for example, history, you don't find, billions of paths. So, we have one general path, which is Sirat Mustaqim, and then different stations, different scenarios, all for that one. Like, for example, when we are traveling from here to Mashhad, as a group, as a team, we are going to the same direction, but maybe one person is driver. One person maybe is, for example, instructor. One person maybe is just a passenger. Maybe one person is the cooker. So going to the same path with different functions. So similar to that is the path of obedience. One path, one direction, but different functions. Okay, I think the time is over. I wanted to mention also something about the last point that Allama makes, which is also related to the way we compare Islam to previous religions and Prophet of Islam to other prophets. This is mentioned page 35 to 37. Maybe we start next session with this on Monday, inshallah. And please, inshallah, if you have already studied, refresh your study, because it's very much helpful if you remember what Allah has said. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.